Let's watch. There's a video, first impressions of the game.
You've probably seen the crazy clips or trailers out there for Palworld, a vibrant-looking open-world survival game, but with creature collecting, base building, battling, production lines of pals manufacturing items, and, well, of course, the weapons. It's no surprise the game is sort of being memed on as Pokemon, but with guns, in various comments out there online, but, well, it really isn't that. Or at least not just that. And a big thanks to Pocket Pair for providing us with an early copy of the game, so I've managed to play it, sink my teeth into it, and get an understanding of what it's about so I can share my impressions of the game with you guys. I'm gonna try and be fair and honest with my opinion on the game as a standalone thing, rather than comparing it directly to something like Pokemon, because as you'll find out soon enough, it really is something else entirely.
Yeah, you can't make the Pokemon slaves in the same way. True.
Start things off with my comments on its performance, because this can be a massive deal breaker for me, and I'm sure many of you guys.
I had no performance problems, but I have a really good PC.
With it being early access. Honestly, this is one of those rare games that while it is in early access, it runs extremely smoothly, with my experience having none or very little performance issues. Now, I do have a very high-end PC with an RTX 4080, but I get a consistent 120 FPS while exploring, and the biggest drop that I've had so far was down to around 70 FPS while in a menu, which, as long as it stays above 60, is very good in my opinion, and certainly rare for an early access game. Now, the graphics definitely aren't groundbreaking, but it is stylized and it's enjoyable to look at for
The graphics are good. Like, I don't want to get into the world where, like, this is what people are starting to do. Is like, anytime there's a game with Unreal 5, people go and they look at the dirt and they say, oh my god, this is just like the desert. But, like, does anybody really give a fuck about the dirt? Like, really, nobody really gives a shit. Like, because it's the stylizing that matters. There's a lot of these Unreal games. Like, a good example of this is Quinfall. Like, Quinfall is made in Unreal, and a lot of the textures in the game blow this out of the water. And of course they did. I mean, if they weren't that great, then the developers wouldn't have bought it off the store. But the truth is that that doesn't really make a good game. And better graphics and higher fidelity does not quantify a better game. It's just not how it works.
Prolonged gaming session, but I do wish there was more animations for things such as picking resources, trees falling down after chopping them, or just visual representations of items like the PAL harnesses that you can craft. Instead, you just grab them and there's no visible harness, even though you have to craft that before you can use them in this way.
Great point. He's right.
So overall, the performance is very good and the graphics are just alright. It feels polished in terms of its FPS, but everything else does feel very early accessy with missing animations, odd cutscenes, and some jank in the combat and gameplay. But let me say, if you have a Steam Deck, this game is actually very easy to play on it. It's basically pick up and play. I downloaded it on my Steam Deck just for fun to see if it would work, and I found myself really enjoying it as a handheld experience. Again, the performance was very good on Steam Deck, so that did kind of shock me. So with some technical talk out of the way, let's talk about what Palworld actually is, because my expectations were definitely way off compared to what the game actually is.
Yeah, I expected this game to be kind of stupid, to be honest with you. And it was kind of stupid, but it was also good.
To be a creature collecting game where you simply go out, collect some monsters, train them up to get stronger and stronger with battling, to then take on bigger and better creatures as you expand out your party. Well, it's not really that, or at least that's only a portion of what it is, and it's not the full focus. This is really unlike any other creature collecting game that I've played before, and it really threw me off to begin with. Initially, I was ready to go out and collect some pals, battle them together, and level up. When in reality, the game is actually more so a survival game, and so the survival game mechanics and gameplay systems that you would expect come first and foremost. This means the first hours of gameplay won't be just collecting and fighting your creatures to level them up. It will be picking up rocks and wood, building crafting stations to make tools to then chop down trees.
They need to make a coliseum in this game where you can have the two Pokemon fight to the death, and then all the other Pokemon, it can make their sanity go up if they get to watch their friends kill each other. I'll have to message the developers about that.
Mine rocks to then build up more and more resources.
And then you can feed the other ones the body of the loser. Or maybe you can have a ritualistic sacrifice as the winner, as a way of their body becoming, you know, ascending into the heavens and then we build a statue of them, like some Inca shit, you know?
So that you can actually build a base. At the beginning of the game, the creatures in the starting areas are a lot more smaller and basic. They're called pals in this game, by the way, so we'll refer to the creatures as pals from now on. You can just walk up to the pals and start punching them or attacking them with a weapon like a club that you can craft early on. And if you completely off them, then you get some resources and items and even meat that you can cook, because you will have to manage a hunger bar on yourself and your pals in your party. Oddly enough, when defeated, the dead body kind of ragdolls, making for some, well, very interesting interactions, which is not something I thought I would see in a creature collecting game.
I think that also, like, another little minor thing this game needs is, like, whenever you're pushing one of the corpses around, other of the similar type of Pokemon, or, sorry, pals, should social aggro if they see the corpse of one of them and start attacking you.
Of course, you're meant to get their health low so that you can capture them with the pal spears that you can find or craft, which again feeds into the heavy need for resources just like any other survival.
And then you could have one of them that's like kind of more dangerous and they actually just cannibalize their own. And so like if you want to feed them, you just kill one of them and then feed the rest of them.
Game. So after a few hours of farming, building up and collecting a few of the basic pals, you really start to see that at least the beginning of the game is less so about collecting and battling and more so about the survival aspects of gathering resources and building. At least this is until you get later in the game where you have everything set up and functional so you can start focusing on the boss fights and battling. You see, the thing is, the pals in this game are actually more so tied to the base building systems and having actual functionality to make self-sustaining bases. This is because all of the pals have different job roles, with some helping out with building and crafting, others using their fire to cook, some using water to feed plants, or just hanging out and producing items like wool and eggs.
Amazing.
So really the initial focus of the game is all about gathering.
Look at him, bro. Look at him go. He's just fucking beating the fuck out that tree, huh?
Building and capturing pals to then put to work in your base so that you can get everything functional. It's only really after these hours of more generic survival game gameplay where you're going out and chopping trees down that you can finally then get geared up and ready to go out further into the world to actually start fighting and capturing cooler and bigger, higher level pals. My biggest advice is to temper expectations away from a pure creature collecting experience and more so—
Thank God, if that was the whole game, I'd fucking quit. Bro, you think I want to go around and collect Pokemon? Like, pfft, the fuck out of here. I don't want to do that. It's boring. I want to kill him. Like, that's the point. Like, what? It's not even a question.
Also into the survival genre, with games like Ark Survival Evolved or even Rust really being more so similar. Think of the pals more like your workforce, even though it really does feel quite wrong to say it. That being said, once you get past
they're not a workforce because you don't pay them. They're a slave force.
Initial building up stages, the game really does start to open up and shine in its own unique way. Using different pals in combat is fun, with each of them having different elemental attacks, abilities, and even interactions with your player. Like I mentioned earlier, with this cute little fire guy being basically a literal flamethrower.
That's badass.
Collecting new pals is really fun as you figure out what they can do for your base, or if there'll be a new member of your actual party for combat or traversal, because you can ride and even fly them, making map traversal so much better. Cool, There's also special bigger raid pals with higher stats, shiny pals to find, and different traits that you get on them when you capture them. With systems like chain
Ravager of Stars. This bitch is level 12. Calm the fuck down.
Catching the same pals back to back, giving you bonus XP. The actual systems of these pals are pretty fleshed out, and again, they are more so like AI NPC buddies for your base than actual creatures that you sort of care for and level up and travel through the game with. Your player character actually has a vital role in combat too, and it's basically a third-person shooter in that respect, where you can shoot bows, guns, even RPGs, you can dodge and use melee weapons as well. And you will need to use these weapons not just in pal battles, but also also in base raids, because yes, in single player, your base will still get attacked, so you'll need to set up defenses and protect your hard built up base.
Yeah.
There's also co-op in the early access, and I believe there isn't going to be PvP just yet, so I'm not sure if that is coming and there will be PvP base raids, I don't really know, but for now it is single player or co-op, which is still pretty fun. But is it all fun and games? Well, if you can get past the starting hours of pretty generic resource gathering, then the game really does shine as you start getting more and more invested in the different pals and collecting them. That being said, we do have to address the developer's track record, particularly Craftopia, which is another survival action game from Pocket Pair, which released into early access in 2020, and well, is still in early access. It's not a game that—
Well, that game looks like fucking garbage, so why would I give a shit about that? Thank God they make a new game. Craftopia, I don't want to craft, I want to kill. Like, they made a good call. Yeah, keep that shit in early access forever.
I've played for myself, but looking at the overall reviews on Steam, it is marked as mostly positive, but there are a lot of reviews and upset comments online, with people claiming the game is underwhelming for how long it's been in early access, and that it doesn't look like it will be releasing into a full game anytime soon. So I guess there is potential for Palworld to be another one of these infinitely stuck in early access games, but we just don't know.
Bro, I played games that are stuck in early access for 10 years. Like, I played Starfield earlier this year. That shit's still in early access. I mean, Shadowlands was in early access for a year and a half. I mean, fuck, guys. Valheim, like, what? I don't care. I mean, if the experience is good, I'm happy.
There's always a risk in buying early access titles.
Remember whenever PUBG was in early access? And remember what happened whenever they took it from early access to being a release game? Nothing. And they shouldn't have done that. Should have stayed in early access.
So while the game is real, it is a bunch of fun, and it's one of the most unique titles that I think I've ever played, especially after initially hating it because my expectations were way off. It does still feel like an early access game, even though a lot of the systems are fleshed out, and there is a lot of hours of content here for you if you enjoy the sort of gathering resources, building a base, and capturing all of these different pals. But I do fear that without continued support, updates, and improvements, it might be a passing bit of fun rather than a game that you'll play for years to come.
Well, so no fucking shit. Like, that's the way every game like this is. Like, I played Valheim a lot, and then I beat all the content, and now I'm waiting for them to put out the Ashlands. Like, I think that's a good thing. Like, it's not really bad. Like, that's the way the games are. Like, every game, I don't need every game to be like this fucking endless, addicting loop of gameplay that I can never get away from. Like, I think this is a good thing. Like, this dude brings up some good points. Like, I agree with it, but, like, I don't want them to try to make out some game to make it this, like, endless thing. Like, just make the game experience fun, and then develop that experience to become larger over time. That's all.
Hope that this does continue to get support.
I'd rather have fun for 20 hours than play a game for 100 hours. You know what I mean?
Can see it being fleshed out into something quite special, but I'm reserving my expectations because from the track record, this could still be in early access in years to come. But with that being said, the game's also releasing onto Xbox Game Pass at the same time as its early access release on the 19th of January. So with Game Pass being a pretty good deal, it's very easy and cheap to just give it a go yourself. So yes, the game is real, it's super unique, a bunch of fun, and has great performance, but it's not without its worries of being an early access title. If you are interested in learning more about the game, then make sure to subscribe down below because we'll have some follow-up videos coming your way soon.
I didn't get a chance to watch
Let's talk about the ongoing...
I didn't get a chance to watch this. I like to watch review videos and like people talking a little bit about the game. I like to watch it a day or two after it comes out because that way, after I play it, that way like my opinion isn't shifted by what the video is. And so that's why I wanted to give it some time. But yeah, I agree with them. Like, I think that honestly, like, yeah, it's an early access game. Like, it's going to take some time for it to be as good of a game as, you know, like, I don't know, Rust is, or, you know, a full Pokemon game is, or something like that, for sure. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it won't be good at all. You know, everything is early access now. Well, early access is a good idea. I mean, it allows people to fund a game without having to. You got to understand, You know, this is like kind of a literature thing, and there's this dude in literature, his name was Faust, and he made a deal with the devil, and this is a bad idea, and basically it gave him everything he wanted, but he had to sell his soul. And a lot of developers enter into what people proverbially refer to as a Faustian pact with these publishers, with these investment companies. And early access can be a way that you become accountable to your community instead of a developer. Or sorry, instead of a publisher, or instead of an investment company. Because whenever you're accountable to your community, that's the best kind of relationship that you can have.